Welcome to the To Speak or Not to Speak podcast. Today, we will be discussing the iconic Shakespeare play, Hamlet, particularly the timeless theme of the consequences of an action and how that remains relevant to the issues in the world today.
This leads into our first modern-day connection to Hamlet, which is climate change. Why do people, like Hamlet, hesitate to act even when they know the consequences of waiting could be deadly, like with climate change?
I think that Hamlet is hesitant to act because, killing someone is such a big thing and has so much moral consequences. Like, it's just such a big thing. And like with climate change, it's like a lot of people are hesitant to accept that it's going on. Like a lot of people, they're like, oh, I need proof that this is happening. I don't just want to, why change my whole lifestyle if there's no proof yet? So a lot of people are just stubborn and so they procrastinate until they actually see consequences, and by the time they see consequences, it's going to be too late.
I agree with that, and especially going off of that, I think that the main thing with climate change is that people don't want to be the first to act, whereas if a group of people, like a big group of people, obviously start doing these things, that more will follow.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially because some people, they're not just going to give up their habits, rework their whole life just to prevent climate change that they don't even have solid proof of. And in Hamlet, he didn't have proof until he did. That's when he was really motivated to act, but still the morality of it and the consequences of taking a life, that really made him hesitate.
So I just wanted to ask the question. I want to make the comparison with Hamlet and his procrastination. He waited so long to finally strike, and since he waited so long, it led to his demise in Act 5, Scene 2. So how can this be related to climate change? How can people being so hesitant to go through with plans, how does that delay the process?
Yeah, I really agree with that, and I think similar to how his whole family died because he waited so long, our whole planet could potentially die because we're waiting so long to act on this climate change matter. And JT, do you have something to say?
Yes. So, I agree with your point. Hamlet waited so long to try to take his revenge on Claudius that it caused the death of him, his family, and many other people in the room. Mm-hmm. Similarly, climate change is being pushed off, ignored, and it's leading to thousands of deaths and ruining the planet for nature and humans alike.
Yeah, just furthermore to support that topic, I have a statistic here that shows climate change is directly and indirectly responsible for thousands of deaths each year. Yeah, climate change also can cause extreme weather events like heat waves, floods, and wildfires, which can cause direct injuries and fatalities.
Moreover, I want to get us into our next modern-day connection. So in Act 3, Scene 1, Hamlet himself feels unheard and misunderstood by the people in power around him. And this relates to how there's a lack of student involvement because students don't trust or have faith in the school leadership team to make school activities entertaining.
When Hamlet feels misunderstood, he becomes passive and disengaged because he doesn't trust those making decisions, which mirrors how the students and just students overall may feel when events are planned without their input.
Yeah, totally. Just to build off that, some examples of it in the prior spring pep rally, students had no input on what they could play, what role they could have during the event. And
what I think you're trying to say is, in the rally, there was, I think I heard that there was 100 people that got their parents to call them out of school before the rally even started just so they could go home. And there was a bunch more that during the rally just got up and left. That shows a big disconnect between, the student body and, SAB. SAB is supposed to make school fun and entertaining. So that ties in with Hamlet, I believe, because he's really contemplating his like thing, like the people around him, if he can trust them or not. And it's like, how can you trust people around you if they just do things without you knowing?
To add on to that, not only when like a quote unquote like higher authority is making decisions without your knowing, but also your input. And this connects to like Hamlet's mourning of his father during his mother's wedding, only like 2 months afterwards. He didn't get to like really put his input in, and if he did, it clearly like wasn't valued, as they still ended up getting married only 2 months after his father's death.
Building off your point, perhaps if Hamlet's mom listened to him and decided to wait or not get married to Claudius and instead help him during his time of mourning, it would have really helped him and maybe changed the events of the story. Similarly, if SAB listened to students and got students' opinions on what they wanted to do, the students would feel more involved in the school and happy with their leadership.
Yeah, the same could be said. Like, we've already brushed on it, but Hamlet, when his mom and uncle were getting married, he was mourning and he felt so unheard. And that just can be related to school, like to our SAB.
So additionally, I want to move us on to our next, modern day connection. And that is, why did the people recording the death of George Floyd, why do they refuse to help and instead, play the victim? And how does that, relate to Hamlet?
I think it relates through the idea, or when Claudius was watching Gertrude about to drink the poison, but he let her do it, knowing the consequences of his inaction and knowing that this horrible thing was going to happen, but still standing off to the side and not intervening.
To build off your point, maybe Claudius did not tell Gertrude that the cup had poison in it because he feared the trouble that he would get in, similar to how the trouble that the bystanders were getting if they tried to help George Floyd by trying to stop the police, which could get them in legal trouble.
I agree with JT's point. I feel like, as an American citizen, if I see the police doing something, they have weapons, I don't. And if I intervene, you never know, what happens if all of a sudden, boom, I get shot for intervening. It's fear of your own life, even though it could have saved someone else's.
Really agree with that, because if Claudius, if he yelled out, Gertrude, there's poison in that cup, then everyone would realize that the cup is poison and he was trying to kill Hamlet. Similar to how if the people watching and recording tackled or got the cop off of George Floyd, he'd still be alive. And so would Gertrude if Claudius just told the audience. Doing so would put their own life at stake too. And Claudius, he also puts his life at risk by telling everyone that he was about to poison Hamlet, especially Hamlet. Hamlet would, and he did, kill him. But the people recording, they could put their own life at risk. They can get shot for even attacking a police officer.
To add on to that, it's not only the fear of his life, but also the trouble that he would get in, as Gertrude would definitely, or at least I hope and know that she would choose Hamlet over him in terms of saving his life for the consequences that Claudius would face for that.
Also, if he were to say something, he kind of had to, do that, because if he were to be wait, don't do it, that's poison, Hamlet would have realized, wait, he was trying to kill me. And then I think Claudius knew that would not end well for him. Hamlet would just turn around and kill him as soon as he found out that, he was trying to poison Hamlet.
This can relate to that George Floyd scenario, as if one person were to intervene, others might, and the officers would obviously be scared, and it could have cost a lot more life than would have happened with them letting it go, because I know people would have been very passionate and were very passionate about the wrong stuff that went on there, and I just don't think that would have really ended well in either scenario, where Claudius did tell Gertrude, that...
I agree with you, Andrew, and maybe if we worked on as a society acting when we see something wrong in society instead of living in the future with our consequences of inaction, our communities and societies would be a lot better off and be a much better place to live.
All right.